sportsradiodetroit.com.
Sierra Hotel India Echo Lima Delta Shield.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Wrestling Fans here on Sports Radio Detroit. I'm Marty. With me as always, Ben, making his triumphant return after a long absence. Our third guy, the third member of the 3MB, Adam. Adam, we're happy to have you back. How have things been going, my friend?
They've been going pretty good, Marty. It's really good to be back. I just want to thank you guys very much for doing the extra work while I was gone. Pods always sounded great, like I knew they would. Finally got the whole job thing squared away, and I don't know if I'd say triumphant because I'm not sure I'm holding the belt anymore for once, but I'm happy to be back. Man. It's good to be talking to you guys.
He comes back and he starts spitting all this trash talk. What is this? What is this?
Well,
what is this?
I mean, we've been doing this for what, a year now, give or take.
Yeah, about.
And Adam's been something like a 9 or 10 time champion or something like that at least.
He's on a John Cena like pace for records. We'll put it that way.
He absolutely is. But we do have a new champion prediction game, and that's where we'll start off. We'll start off with the WrestleMania recap. I've watched bits and pieces of it, and the reason I haven't watched the whole thing is because there's times that the way the card was set up just outright pisses me off. They make such a big deal about the cruiserweight title. They put it on the pre-show. It was just a lot of things. A lot of things they did just drove me nuts with this event. But overall, I actually thought what I saw was actually pretty good. They started off with the cruiserweight title on the pre-show. It was Neville versus defending the title against Austin Aries, who all three of us picked Aries. We thought that was a shoe-in, and Neville retained. Adam, what were your thoughts on that? Because I was really surprised they didn't give it to Aries.
I mean, I was definitely surprised that, like you said, all three of us picked Aries. It seemed like, just seems like the cruiserweight division as a whole hasn't really gained a lot of traction. And I was a little bit surprised, they didn't give it to a guy like Aries, who I would probably say is a bigger name than Neville. Both of these guys made their bones kind of outside WWE, but Aries probably carries the more, recognizable name. And I mean, the match itself was really, really good. And I would say that's probably one argument to leave it on the pre-show is I would imagine they were given more time to work and more time to shine than if they had been jammed into the 16-hour WrestleMania itself. But yeah, I was still surprised at the outcome of the match for sure.
And Ben, what were your thoughts? I mean, because like I said, like we both said, we all picked Aries. Were you surprised Neville kept it?
I was actually. I thought, especially if you're going to have it on the pre-show, normally, you see a title change hands when it's particularly the cruiserweight title, and they didn't. They're just like, no, we're just going to put on a hell of a show, and Neville's going to retain. It's like, well, okay. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things that, and it's funny whenever you read complaints about, oh, the WWE has no idea what to do with their cruiserweight division. Well, yeah, because they keep burying it on trying to fix it, and it's like that scene in Tommy Boy.
The pet is my possible sale. Oh, my pretty little pet. I love you. So I stroke it, I pet it, and massage it. I love my little naughty pet. You're naughty. And then I take my naughty pet, and I go. Oh! I killed her!
There's that scene where he's in the office, and then, he just talks about how he strangles the sale. That's the cruiserweight division. Like, I don't get it. Like, you have TJ Perkins now as a heel, like, the most faces of faces, and he's now a heel. Like, what is this? Like, what are we getting at? It's just a jumble of mess, it seems like.
And I remember when TJ Perkins was in TNA under the ridiculous guise of Manic, and he was the heel within a stable with James Storm, and I forget who the other guy was. He's a terrible heel, guys. Like, the greats can go heel or face and make it work. Perkins is awful as a heel. I mean, there's just no way around it. So the fact that he went heel, like, just completely surprised the hell out of me. The Intercontinental title was on the line. Ambrose defended against Corbin. All three of us went Corbin. Ambrose retained. Don't get me wrong. I was happy that Ambrose retained, but all three of us were just ready to see Corbin get this because I think all three of us see big things in Corbin's future. So it was kind of surprising to see them leave the belt on Ambrose, which, of course, that was revealed because now he's on Raw. U.S. title's going to SmackDown, so it kind of makes sense 2 weeks down the road. But, that night I was really surprised. Ben, what were your thoughts on that match? Because I thought they built it up quite a bit. I thought they built it up too much to the point where it didn't deliver on their build-up. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel the same way. And now that we know with the whole roster shakeup, then it kind of makes sense. It's still that Ambrose won, but like the thing I don't get is like I want Ambrose fighting for the world title. I don't want him holding an Intercontinental title and then moving that to Raw. Like, I don't know. It seems like there's way too many moving parts for it to make sense. Like, I don't know if I'm the only one here because, like,
right?
Why does the title have to change? Like when someone like with this whole roster shakeup, like, is anyone on Monday nights really going to care that they're going to see someone fight for the Intercontinental title instead of the U.S. Championship? I mean, really? No. Like,
yeah,
I'm not tuning into Raw for someone to get a shot at the Intercontinental title. I'm not tuning into SmackDown for the U.S. title. No one cares. It's a secondary belt. People care about the main belt and your tag champions, really, if you think about it. So, like,
yep.
That's why I think it's crap that Corbin lost. Corbin has all the momentum going for him into Mania, and then you squash him. Like, I do not get that logic at all. I do not get it from like a single like turning point outside of, as you said, Marty. They're gonna move belts. Well, yeah, you move belts. You leave it with the champion, but I'm so, like, if I'm Dean Ambrose and I'm told this in the locker room by creative, I'm telling him, yeah, I'll drop the belt. I'll go if I get a shot at the world or at the Universal title. Great. They're like, no. You can keep your belt because we're gonna set up Finn Balor for a title run. You can just sit in the corner and get paid. You're fine. Because that's basically like what they told him.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's
Adam,
garbage.
you feel the same way as us?
Yeah, I mean, I was confused at the outcome because realistically, it doesn't help either guy. It doesn't help Corbin because, like like Ben said, he had a lot of momentum. He's picking up steam. WWE severely lacks a credible heel. Like everything should have like shifted for this to be his moment. For whatever reason, they didn't. And honestly, I think you can make the argument it would have been more fun to just leave the belts on the same show, leave them vacant, and that your mid card's pretty much written for you for the next month on each show on Raw and SmackDown if you leave the Intercontinental and the U.S. title belt. Because if you make each guy change who was holding the belt, it sets up a lot more opportunity than just, oh well, the belt changed and Ambrose is just going to be IC champ, and I mean that belt's not doing anything for him. It's not helping him. He's pretty stagnant right now. So I was definitely surprised, and honestly, I was pretty disappointed in the match itself too.
Yeah, I was too. I actually see eventually I see a Shield reunion happening, but I also see eventually, probably sooner than I want or expect, I think Ambrose is going to go heel eventually because he's kind of him being like the cool guy, lunatic, cocky, whatever, how you want to term it. It's kind of getting stale a little bit, so I kind of feel like they need to shake him up and turn heel. The match that I least look forward to, we'll cover next because I just think it's a stupid premise. The Andre the Giant Battle Royal. All three of us. Who all we pick? I don't even remember.
Strowman.
Oh, we all picked Strowman, and they give it to Mojo freaking Rawley, which just proves how stupid this Battle Royal is. Because you've had Big Show win it, who, Ben, you said you used it as a launching point. Well, Big Show won the inaugural one, so it didn't do anything for him. The only one it really has worked for so far is Corbin, and I think that's just because Corbin's so good. Mojo Rawley's really not. He's not that good. He's just he's good for his gimmick. He's good as like a hype type guy. I don't think he's very good. Or did either one of you actually kind of like care about this match? Because I know I did not.
Well, no, especially not once you came to the realization they only had this match really to tie in Gronk, who was sitting in the audience.
Right.
And it's even funnier because apparently they don't tell the security. Like, somebody actually tried to stop him, and other WWE employees had to come over and tell her, like, no, this is what's supposed to happen. Just let him go. It was just completely and totally awkward to start with. And honestly, like, I understand it's WrestleMania. You're going to try and get celebrities in there, fine, whatever. Don't expect me to care for a match if that's going to be the outcome of the match. If some jabroni can hop the barricade and get involved, I stop caring immediately.
Yeah, it was kind of stupid. And then they continued it like the next, I think, week or two on Raw. They continued this thing with Gronk, which, okay, fine, we get it. Mojo Rawley's friends with Gronk. Hey, that's great. That's cool. Nobody cares because it's Mojo Rawley.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, it was one of the things that,
at least
like,
when they did it.
Go ahead. You're good.
At least when they did, like, the crowd thing with, like, Ronda Rousey, A, it wasn't a match, and B, The Rock pulled her out of the audience. So even then it didn't make sense, but at least it didn't ruin a match where, like, your other performers who bust their ass all year got thrown into it for absolutely no reason.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing too, like, when I saw, like, Gronk, I was like, oh great. Like I did the biggest, hardest eye roll probably at that moment and at the stupid proposal as well, because both moments literally stopped the show in its tracks.
Yes.
Like, it's like, I don't need to see this crap. I don't need, like, I'm sorry, I don't need, and I did the stupid marketer voice, on the last episode. I don't need a reason to watch Total Divas. If my girlfriend wants to watch Total Divas, fine, because that's how she connects to wrestling, whatever. I'm not tuning into E and watch Total Divas. I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not. So, like, why do I care what, that's why I hated the whole Miz and Cena, like, feud thing, because it's crap. Like, why, like, I don't need to see Rob Gronkowski, who's injured, by the way, jump the barricade to do a shoulder tackle to a guy, which, by the way, Jinder Mahal does the entire bump the entire time. And everyone's like, oh my God, Gronk blew the guy up. No, that's what's called a back bump. You guys are stupid. And, like, I don't need that. Like, I would rather see Kane, Tombstone, Pete Rose for the 8th time than see something like that. Because it's that stupid.
You mean Mayor Jacobs?
Same difference. I don't care.
I thought it was kind of weird that the first match of the actual card was Shane and AJ Styles. Because, they threw it together rather haphazardly. And then when they finally decided this was going to happen, at least on TV they decided it, they put, like, a lot of quote-unquote creative effort behind it. They kind of dominated a lot of SmackDowns. For that to be, like, the kickoff match was kind of bizarre. But it was also kind of cool because it was a match that all three of us knew was going to end the way it did. We all picked AJ to win it, and he did. So no big surprises there. Next, we'll go to the SmackDown Women's title, which, Ben, I think this was the first point of the night that separated us. Ben, you picked Naomi to win it. I picked Mickie James, and Adam, you picked Becky Lynch, which, I kind of figured all three made sense, but I didn't figure they'd give it to Naomi just because, she just handed it back. But Ben, you went with the hometown girl, and you got the first point there. So that was a nice pick. The Raw Women's title, I decided to go against my own thing here, and I didn't pick Bayley, and I should have. I went with Charlotte, just like Ben did. Adam, you went with Sasha. Bayley retained. I actually thought that match was okay. And this isn't a knock on Nia Jax. It's not. I actually really appreciate Nia Jax the more that I watch her. I thought it was better once she got out of that match. Adam, what were your thoughts on that one? Did you think kind of Nia Jax being in there kind of disrupted the work the other three can do?
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I really didn't, just because she wasn't in there long enough to really throw anything off. I mean, I'll be honest, I skipped a little bit of this match because I watched WrestleMania that night, but I didn't start it till like almost 11 o'clock because I worked. So, I was a little bit judicious with the fast forward button here or there. after Sasha got eliminated and the crowd was pretty much deflated, I didn't watch much more of it. Like, I kind of fast forwarded till the end and saw the end of it, and that was about it. I was surprised, and you guys know I'm a big Sasha fan, but I was really surprised at how, like, she got eliminated and nobody cared about the rest of that match.
And she got eliminated quickly, though, too.
She did.
Like,
and,
that was the thing that, like, surprised
on
me
their hands after that.
Was like, it's like you're expecting her to, like, do something, and then all of a sudden she just rolls over. It's like, yeah, no, it's okay, now she's out. It's like, wait, what? Like, that's what caught me off guard by the entire match, was just how quickly she went out. She went out as quickly as, like, Nia Jax did.
Yeah, it really seemed to really mess with the match as a whole, which, I mean, it sucks for Charlotte and Bayley that, you know, they put in good work and everything, but I was very, very shocked that, like, Sasha got eliminated and everybody's like, oh man, we better go get our popcorn real quick before the next match starts.
Yeah, and it's funny though, because like the next day when I got home from work, I was scrolling through Twitter, just doing research for the show, and a lot of people were saying the same thing Adam did. Like, after Sasha, nobody cared about the match. Nobody wanted to give Bayley and Charlotte credit for continuing a decent match. It was just like once Sasha got eliminated, it just seemed like nobody cared, and that was. This sounds rather ridiculous. I sound like a millennial when I say this, but it seemed kind of unfair to the people that were still working. It seemed like nobody cared, and that's kind of that's a bummer. Let's see. Next, we'll go to the U.S. title, which we all knew was going one way, and that's exactly how it went. We all picked Owens to beat Jericho. That's exactly how it went. I thought Jericho was done at Mania. Apparently, he's done at the end of May. Because he's doing the next pay-per-view, which, I don't know, Fastlane, Payback, whatever the hell it's called.
Payback.
He's doing that one, and then I think he's done, because he's starting his tour. This matter of fact, in May, him and Fozzy are coming to Pittsburgh, which I'm going to try and go see. So I kind of figured Mania was going to be the end of it, but he's going through the end of May, which is cool with me. Cena and Nikki took on Miz and Maurice. I went Miz and Maurice. You guys went the smart route. We all know how that one went. Cena and Nikki won, then the proposal, yada, yada, yada. Which was actually kind of a cool moment for a lot of people. Like, I kind of felt that it was a bit much. Like, we didn't really need to see all that on TV, but I guess they kind of had to play it out that way because of the storyline. But Ben, like you said, I'm not going to watch Total Divas. That show's been on TV for, 4 years now, 5 years. I've watched 2 episodes, and that's just because I was in bed and was too lazy to change the channel. So it's just, like you said, it's kind of a launching point for that show. Rollins defeated Triple H. We all went with Rollins. That match was disgustingly good, but I was kind of confused with Triple H's entrance, kind of like I am every year. Like, he gets the most awesome entrance. But this year was kind of confusing. Like, he was basically on a tricycle motorcycle. It was really bizarre. What were your thoughts on that? Because I'm still stumped by it. Ben, what were your thoughts on it? Did you like his entrance, or did you think it was kind of stupid because he was on the tricycle?
I mean, I get it, like, because he's a biker and all, but I thought it was weird he needed a police escort down a ramp. I'm like, that's stupid. Because clearly, like, there's no one that's, like, the whole idea of the police escort was just dumb. That's what I didn't like. I don't mind him going down and basically, like a big tricycle or whatever. That's fine. The police escort's a little much. You're the king of kings. Like, you don't need that. Like, look at, like, the previous years that he's had, coming down. Like, he would have, like, followers or whatnot. That would be fine.
Yep.
But a police escort? Like, what? It doesn't make sense. That's what I didn't get.
It didn't make sense this year. Not to me, anyways. And Stephanie looked ridiculously uncomfortable the way she was sitting. I kind of felt bad for her. From there, we'll go to the WWE title. Orton versus Bray Wyatt, the defending champion. Adam, you picked Wyatt to retain. Ben and I both picked Orton. Orton won. I want to go out and say that I'm surprised he did, even though I picked him. I'm surprised he won, because I kind of figured WWE they would kind of keep the ship going in the same direction because the people were really behind Bray Wyatt as champion because it was so freaking long overdue. What were your thoughts on this one, Adam? Because you're the only one that went Wyatt, so I know you were kind of bummed. Well, for lack of a better term, bummed because you're also an Orton guy. What were your thoughts on this one?
I mean, the match itself, I'm going to be honest, it was garbage.
Yeah.
I was shocked. I figured that would be the match of the night because those two guys can go. And I figured since there's a belt on the line, they'd get time. It's not like they'd be in and out in 8 minutes. That all that match was a couple graphics on the mat, and they tried to trade finishers for like 10 minutes. I'm baffled by the book, like just the whole layout of the match. The amount these guys could have done to what they did was just shocking to me. I was really, really disappointed, and that just made it even like I probably would have been fine with Orton winning, but after that crap of a match, I was just like disgusted, to be honest.
Yeah, and Ben, before I get your thoughts, I want to go to an article I read. I want to say it was either Sunday or Saturday. I forget which day it was. I read an article where Stone Cold was reviewing the pay-per-view on his podcast, like he does all the time, which is fine. I forget who he had on. I want to say it was a Court Bauer guy that he has on all the time, whatever. He was talking about this match in particular, and he pretty much puts the turd in the punch bowl as Randy Orton's fault because he's like, we all know how Randy Orton can get. We all know if he doesn't feel like working, he's not going to. He goes, I kind of put it at his feet. Ben, I want to come to you for this one. Do you think that's a fair assessment from Stone Cold? I mean, Austin knows both those guys fairly well. We all know his career. Do you feel like that's a fair assessment, or do you feel maybe just both guys want to be on it?
I don't know, because I mean, I think Orton gets bored because and I think that's a fair critique because you can tell that he does get bored, and it's just something that he gets bored in storylines, he gets bored in the ring. And granted, this was going to be a slower match because Bray, is a bigger guy. But yeah, I mean, as Adam said, both these guys can go. Both these guys can get the job done. So I don't get why the match was so bad, but the graphics didn't help. Like pausing for 5 seconds for something that no one except a TV audience can really truly appreciate was dumb.
Right. And like Ben's right. I mean, you can tell Orton can get bored sometimes. My God, it's WrestleMania. I don't care if you're bored. I don't care if you don't like the storyline. Grow up.
Yeah,
like I don't know. Like if this was Payback, what I mean by Payback is like, did WWE do him a solid and just come out and give him an easy win because Lesnar just about broke his skull? I don't know, but that was the match I was looking forward to the most on this card, and it sucked.
Yeah, if you're gonna take a night off, it probably should not be WrestleMania. I don't care if the show is on for 17 hours or not. That's probably not the night to take a night off. From here, we'll go to the match that I least look forward to, other than the stupid battle royal: Lesnar versus Goldberg. Adam, you went lone wolf to pick Goldberg. Ben and I both picked Lesnar. Lesnar ended up winning. I'm curious to see why you went Goldberg, Adam.
Well, leading up to it, I had started to read that Goldberg possibly had more dates coming up, and they were negotiating and all that. And it wasn't my smartest decision ever, because the smart money was on Brock Lesnar to take the belt back and at least give it a little bit more credibility. I know there's plenty of fans who aren't happy that he's not there constantly. I get that. I understand it. But I don't know. Like, I guess I thought, WWE might want to make Goldberg taking the belt off of Owens, who had a pretty lengthy reign, a bit more credible, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's not the best option regardless, but maybe if he just wasn't a clear transitional champion, it makes it a little bit better when somebody beats Goldberg. I don't know. It probably wasn't my best decision in hindsight. But I'll tell you what, for the main matches, that one might actually have been my favorite, and it was only about 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that's fair. You guys know the big two matches I saved for last because you know the card. and you know me and my flair for the dramatics, for lack of a better term. We're going to go to the tag team titles, the Raw tag titles. I wanted to say this for last because this was pretty big, wasn't it, guys? I mean, a surprise entrance with the returning Hardy. I mean, honestly, like I knew they were coming back because they had both confirmed it on social media, but they didn't say when, which was obviously smart. They were probably told not to. But I damn sure didn't expect WrestleMania. I actually thought the New Day was going to take that spot. Sure enough, those guys came out. I'm not going to lie, even though I'm not a big Hardy Boys fan anymore. I had goosebumps when I saw it. Adam, what was your initial reaction on this one? Because I was stoked, and then like it dawned on me. I'm like, oh shit, they're going to be there for a while. You guys know me. I'm not big on the nostalgia acts. I just want to, I understand their place. But what were your thoughts on this one, Adam?
I mean, once the music hits and they come out, it's kind of hard not to react and be pretty happy. But pretty quickly in the match, just like you said, I kind of went, oh crap. And I've been on record. I don't know if we discussed on the podcast or this was more of a in our little group chat thing, but I really don't think that the Hardys are going to work there long term at all. I just don't see it. I don't see Matt being given the freedom that he had in TNA to make things work. People get different mileage out of the delete gimmick and all that crap, but the nostalgia of the Hardy Boys is going to wear off fast.
Yeah, look at the Dudley Boys. Look at the Dudley Boys.
Right, they're going to get pops for about a month, and then everybody's going to go, oh, okay, now what? And the tag, scene on Monday Night Raw really isn't that great. There's no team that's going to help them out and make the matches really, really good because the tag division has been neglected. May not be the right word because they have at least been given some effort, but it's not really, the machine's not behind that division at all. And it's going to shine through pretty quick, I think. And Ben, I want to get your thoughts on this because Adam, you picked Sheamus and Cesaro, which actually surprised me because I know you can't stand those two together, mainly because of Sheamus. But you picked them, and Ben, you and I both made what I thought was a smart decision. Enzo and Cass winning the titles. Before I get your opinion on this match and your thoughts on it, do you guys kind of feel like maybe Enzo and Cass are never gonna reach out and grab that fast ring? They're just there to entertain for the 5 minutes to do their intro. Like they're never. I just have the feeling WWE's never gonna put the belts on them. I'm okay with that. Ben, what were your thoughts on the match? What are your thoughts on Enzo and Cass not getting the nod? Because like you had said, this would have been their WrestleMania moment.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm still looking to see what they're going to do with Enzo and Cass because at this point, I have no clue, and I have no reason to anticipate or suspect that they're going to be tag champions anytime soon.
Nope.
It's just like right when the Hardys were announced. Yes, I did what everyone else did. I got up to my feet and was like, "Holy crap, the Hardys are back!" And then it dawned on me that they're going to win. And, like, right when they won, I was like, well, then what are we doing with Enzo and Cass? Like, seriously, what are we doing with them? Like, what's the plan? Because I've said it before on this podcast, I like trying to navigate through creative's mind to see what they're going to do. And Enzo and Cass are going nowhere. They're sinking. Because, I mean, their stick is old. All they do is the intro. And then after that, it's just garbage. Like, it really is. The matches aren't great because Enzo sucks in the ring. He does.
Yes.
He's god-awful. I don't want to hear from anyone that says, oh, Enzo's great. No, he's not. He can't even do a baseball slide, and when he did, he got concussed. So, when you do that, like, and you oversell the way he does, you're putting yourself and the other wrestlers in harm's way. So maybe that's why they're not given the opportunity, because they're still very, very rough and raw. But, yeah, I mean, outside of that, like, it's cool that the Hardys are back. Like, I like it. I like the Hardy Boys. I think it's great. But you're not going to see, like, it's really funny because the audience wants to do the delete thing, and they chant delete for, like, 5 seconds, and then they stop. It's like someone just squashes it. Like, and it's not the fan. Like, it seems like someone, like, in the crowd squashes that chant really, really quick. because Matt Hardy, when he does his entrance, he does the swipe, and then people go nuts for 5 seconds, and then he stops. So it's like, so what are we? And I agree with Adam. It's like, what are we doing here? What are we doing with the Hardys? Are we going to do like this Brother Nero thing or whatever? Because right now it's just vintage Hardys, which I'm a fan of, but you need an evolutionary point.
It's vintage Hardys with like a lemon twist, because if you listen to their promos and you watch them in ring, Matt Hardy's still somewhat doing the broken Matt Hardy thing. Like, he will slip in and out of that accent, and you can tell he's clearly doing it deliberately. But like, it's really jarring and it's kind of weird. But it also makes sense because TNA, I don't know if you guys have seen this, TNA they said if the Hardy Boys continue to do this, they will sue because they feel that the broken gimmick is theirs because it was under their watch that it happened.
Well,
Hardy, like, no, we came up with it. You had nothing to do with it. So I'm interested to see where that goes.
Well, it's not just that, but like, if I was Matt Hardy and they threatened to sue, I'd be like, you don't even know who's owning your company technically. You're still going through like bankruptcy. So how can you claim intellectual property ownership when you don't even have ownership of your own promotion?
Or anything intellectual, because that company is the in-ring product's getting better, and we'll get back to Mania here in a second. The in-ring product's getting better. I know because I watch it every week. It's actually getting really, really good. But it's still, you still look at it and go, okay, they can reclaim what they once were because they've got the pieces, but then you kind of want to pull back because it's TNA, it's Impact, and somehow it's going to be a train wreck.
Well, but that's why I'm shocked. Like, the Hardys left TNA. Because, like, why I get it. TNA they're not necessarily a sinking ship, but why jump ship now?
Yeah.
Like at the height of your popularity, why jump? And if it's just pure for money, which I think it is, then you've bastardized everything that you've built with this inner workings that you've created, not just with TNA, but into the independents, into New Japan, into Ring of Honor, and then you're just going to abandon it for a paycheck. Like, true diehard wrestling fans, if they reach that logic point, which is very, very blatant and very, very, like, in your face,
yep,
there is going to be no reason for people to like the Hardys, as Adam said, after about a month. After about a month, it's going to wear off. And then you're going to be like, okay, so now what? You can't do the Broken Hardy thing because TNA is going to threaten to sue, which I guarantee TNA, since they're already in the courts, they're going to do it anyways. And so it leaves the Hardys literally with nothing. So I don't get, like, I like the Hardys are in the WWE. I like it. But I don't get the move as to now why you're doing it. You never completed your storyline cycle, and it doesn't make sense for the jump. I
think what happened is toward the end of their run, there was a lot of bad blood because Matt Hardy's wife, and I apologize ahead of time, is a fucking idiot who can't. She's the Donald Trump of wrestling. She can't stay off social media and stop making stupid statements. She's just an idiot. I'm not going to go through the whole backlog of it, but she would go on social media and blast her employer. Hey, dumbass, maybe do that after you leave. Look, like, let's be a little smart. So I think there was kind of some bad blood there toward the end. She was going public with everything that was going on. They won't let us do the broken thing because they feel like they own it. She pulled back the curtain way too much while she was still employed. But whatever. I don't know. It's just a train wreck. Before we move on to the biggest match of the night, the biggest moment of the night, which is going to have two segues from it, which is that's how big it is. I want to get your thoughts on something, guys. So I was kind of thinking, do you agree with me that maybe they're grooming Cass to be a single superstar with Enzo as his mouthpiece? Because Enzo has not gotten any better in the ring. I think we all agree on that. I know Ben does. Do you think they're kind of grooming Cass to be a single star with Enzo as his manager? Adam, I'll get your thoughts first.
Well, I'll say this. I can't remember where I read it. It's been a while since I've been on the podcast, but I did read a rumor that suggested one of the reasons that those two get constant run right now is because Vince McMahon thinks it's hilarious when Enzo gets the crap kicked out of him. Which, if some of the stories about Vince McMahon are to be true, it definitely the puzzle pieces fit. And I mean, look, Cass has the size that the prototypical Vince McMahon guy generally would have. I don't think Cass is horrible in the ring. I wouldn't say he's great at this point.
Right.
But if you let him develop a little bit more, and you start putting him in the title scene, on their mid card, undercard, that kind of thing, I think it makes a lot of sense because Enzo can still take his bumps to make Vince laugh. Honestly, I think there can be money in Big Cass. I'm not saying a lot. I'm not saying he's like the next great thing, but he can certainly be a mid card guy, I think.
Right. Yeah, and he kind of reminds me of Test a little bit. His size, his skill set, and his athleticism. Even though Test wasn't, Test was okay. You hear people sit there, and for those listeners who don't know who Test is, look him up on the network. Similar skill set, size, everything like that. Like that's just who he reminds me of. Ben, what are your thoughts? You kind of think they're grooming Cass to be a single star with Enzo as his manager?
I hope so, because
Ben just wants Cass Enzo out of the ring.
It's not just that. It's just like, as I said before, they're getting stale. Like, if you're not going to pin the belts on these guys when the fans like them, then win. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Adam's a smart dude. Marty, you're a smart dude when it comes to like you guys are dialed in when it comes to wrestling. If Adam thinks in a prediction that Cesaro and Sheamus, who are now gaining popularity because they've done the whole we hate each other crap, and now they're actually being this joint force, and Adam picks them to win a title, and then we pick Enzo and Cass to win a title. Granted, we didn't see the Hardys coming, but still, and it doesn't happen. Like, you could still have the Hardys come in and not hand them the belts that night, which is why I still hate creative to no end. Like, every new person that comes in, and this is why I picked Austin Aries. Every new person that comes in gets the belt immediately. You don't have to work for it. They're just like, oh, hey, you're in. Here you go. Here's the belt. You're the guy. Congratulations. So, if it doesn't happen for them, win. So, at that point, sure, let Enzo be a poor man's version of Paul Heyman. I don't care.
Yeah.
He's good on the mic. Why not? Talk up Big Cass, because Big Cass is an idiot. Sounds like an idiot. And when you equated him to Test, it's perfect because Test's big moment in his career was when he asked out, not proposed, but asked out Stephanie McMahon. She said yes, and then The Undertaker obliterated Test. That's his biggest moment in his career. So if that happens with Cass, which it seems like they're going to go down that road with him anyways, that is a dead-on equivalent of who Big Cass could be as a singles person.
Well, I want to tell you were saying about Test is an idiot, or not Test. I'm sorry, Cass is an idiot. It's funny. I was listening to. I got really behind on my podcast listening because of work and different things popping up, and I actually got finally all caught up. Well, during WrestleMania week, Jericho had Big Cass, and then he finally had Roman Reigns, which was an outstanding interview. Both of them were. But I had the Big Cass interview playing. And my oldest daughter, Allie, she's now 10. She's like, Daddy, who's Jericho talking to? I said, that's Big Cass. And guys, I kid you not, my daughter, like I said, she doesn't watch wrestling all that much, but she goes, he doesn't sound like an idiot. That can't be him. I was just like, well, no. I was like, that's just his in-ring character. He was pre-med. People don't realize Sean Cassidy or Colin Cassidy, his real name is. He was pre-med before he went to wrestling, before he decided to become a wrestler. So, when they have him go out there and he's talking, and he sounds like the typical Brooklyn idiot. No offense to Brooklyn, just the accent kind of kills you guys. Sorry. It's just it's brutal. And then you hear him do a regular podcast. He sounds like a regular guy. It's jarring between fantasy and reality. Is kind of how it is.
Well, but here's the thing, though, too. Peeking behind the curtain a little bit, before he came up from NXT. He was one of the guys with Sami Zayn that was grooming the young talent, teaching them how to do everything. And yeah, the character is stupid, but the man behind the character is not. You can tell that because creative trusts him to do things. And when they trust you to not only do things in developmental, but then be the poster child of how to do things and then help set up matches and all of that, like they did with, Cass and, Sammy before they left. Obviously, you're not stupid, and I think that's where the frustration comes from. Like, they've just pegged this whole bad persona on these guys that I don't think they can get out of it. That's the thing. Like, you would need Cass to get injured for him to then just come out and just be like, I'm a different person or something, like a different character breaking point. Because at this point, you can't do it. And that's what I mean. Like, I don't get what they're going to do with these guys. Because if Vince truly likes seeing Enzo get the crap kicked out of him, because he oversells on everything, like a hard punch to his face and he flails like a fish out of water. Like, that's how bad he is. I don't know. I don't know where, what that launching off point is. I just don't.
Yeah, I don't see it either. Moving on to the last match, which, like I said, it's such a big momentous thing that it has two segues. Roman Reigns took on The Undertaker. Adam, you and I both went Reigns. Ben, you went Lone Wolf, went Undertaker. Before I get your opinion on that, Adam, I know you can't stand Reigns, and I know you can't stand how Undertaker has bastardized himself lately. What were your overall thoughts on the match? Because given the fact that Taker can barely move and they don't let Reigns do much, I wasn't totally disenfranchised with this. I actually kind of dug it. I mean, Reigns could have done, 15 less Superman punches. But that being said, what were your thoughts overall on this match? Because I didn't hate it, but I just didn't think it should close out the show.
Well, I don't think it had much choice to close out the show with The Undertaker retiring, because anything that would have gone on after that, it would have been deflated.
Right.
So I understand why it was the main event. Having said that, I mean, as the match kind of wore on and it became clear just how little Undertaker could do, and you kind of had the feeling what was going to happen. I mean, the longer it went, the more confirmed it got, basically. Honestly, it was just kind of sad, because I'm not going to say Undertaker ruined his legacy, because I don't think that's true at all. But, I mean, clearly the dude just can't go anymore. And I'm not surprised. I mean, look at the wear and tear he's put on that body. But, there was a spot where Roman Reigns was trying to put him in the tombstone, and literally Taker couldn't do it. Like, he literally could not help Reigns to pull off that move. It was kind of sad to see a wrestler who has just been a constant ever since I've loved wrestling. And that's like the final moment you're going to get to see him. So the match itself, I'm not going to sit here and crap on it, because as much as I don't like Reigns, he was obviously very limited in what he was able to do in that match. Right. But yeah, it certainly wasn't great. It's obviously much more about the moments after it.
Yeah. Ben, what were your thoughts on it?
I thought the match was terrible. I mean, obviously we've beat it to death here, but this guy has been in the ring 3 to 4 years way too longer than he should. And I'm sorry, I don't need to see Roman Reigns bounce off the ropes 4 times to do one final, spear after, you mentioned he did, 15 Superman punches. He did, 20 spears.
Super spear, man.
He did, 20 spears. Come on.
Yeah.
He has to bounce off the ropes 4 times before The Undertaker, who, again, and I said it last year, I'll say it again, doesn't like being part of WrestleMania moments, so he's not a team player. Because when Shane jumped off the cage, what does he do? Rolls off the table and then doesn't even take the spot. And then this year, you just see him stand in the ring just waiting for, the impact point so he can take his back bump. It looked bad. It looked terrible. It was something that, yes, had to be the last match of the night for what happened afterward. But let's not sit here and glorify a shit show, because that's what it was. Because 1, the match should have never have happened, and 2, he should have this moment should have happened 3 or 4 years ago. It should have happened the year after Brock Lesnar beat him.
Yes,
that's when it should have happened.
Is that when he took on that when he took on Wyatt?
I
Yeah,
don't.
he faced Wyatt after Lesnar.
But like that's when it should have happened. Like that's why I don't give any sympathy to creative. I don't give any sympathy to Undertaker. I don't give any sympathy to the WWE. I'm sick of it. And I'm sad that he's gone because of his longevity. But I don't like when you honestly asked us, Marty, for the next topic that we're going to get into. I'm going to disappoint because I didn't really give it much thought. Because why? I don't think he deserves that much thought at this point. I really don't.
That's fine.
I was disappointed. And it pains me to say because I know everyone listening right now is like, "Wow, Ben's an asshole. I hate Ben. Ben's a jerk." Cool, but I'm not gonna like just go back and just be like, "Wow, if this is the last I get of the Undertaker, you damn well better believe I'm gonna have a sour taste in my mouth." Because the last match I want to see traditional things. I want to see the tombstone. I want to see old school, him walking on the top rope and then delivering the clubbing forearm that he does. I want to see all of that. And instead, I get to see a guy who's a statue in a ring wait 4 times for Reigns to run around him to take a final spear. Give me a break.
Yeah, it was almost like watching Hogan's last couple of years in the business. That's kind of what I felt.
But even then, Hogan and The Rock at WrestleMania for the official passing of the torch moment, that even wasn't that bad of a match as what we saw with Reigns and Taker. Rock actually carried Hogan for a little bit, and it actually looked good. Because at the end, Hogan, holding his ribs, sheepishly reaches out his hand, and The Rock's like, "Yeah, dude, I give it up to you. You actually, did it." But there was nothing like that. There was no mutual respect. There was no nothing because again, Undertaker can't be a team player. I just get fed up with it, and that's where my anger comes in from not only a worker and a fan standpoint, but that's where the anger comes in from. Why can't you go out and just be a team player and pass the torch to somebody? I don't get it.
Yep.
I just do not get it at all.
And that's fair. Before we branch off into the next topic, I want to give the results. Adam, you finished third with 5 points. I had my best showing in a long damn time, and I finished second place with 6. Ben, you're taking home the crown with 7 points. You're now the champion. How does it feel, brother? Get that finally get that belt away from Adam.
Well, I will say this because I won it at the biggest stage, so of course I got excited. Because it's been a while since I've won it, because I've tied Adam a couple of times, but Adam's championship advantage allowed him to retain. So I'm glad that for a prediction of the Showcase of the Immortals, I can leave and head into Payback as champion, where I will probably lose, but that's fine, because I won at Mania and I'm happy.
You got your WrestleMania moment on.
I did. I got a WrestleMania moment on WrestleMania weekend. You bet your sweet ass I did.
But from there, and Ben, congratulations on that, because this really could have gone any way. When I picked Miz to win this thing, I laid it out last time. I kind of figured they could keep it going because Cena and Nikki were supposed to leave for a little while. Apparently, they're not now because they can't. I don't know. They're not getting any. They're not getting the jobs they thought they were going to get. Kind of following that a little bit. So I kind of figured maybe Miz and Maurice could capitalize on that. I stand by it. I think it would have made more sense, but whatever. I had 6 points. That's not terrible for me, considering I've been averaging 2. So from there, I want to go to the first segue of, longtime listeners will know we constantly shit on The Undertaker on this show. Some of it's in jest, most of it is not. And it's all deserved, and it's all in fun because it's just 3 guys giving their opinions. But I didn't feel right about not giving him a proper send-off as longtime wrestling fans like we are. So I want to go through and do possibly 3 of our favorite moments. And then at the very end, we'll give – and this is just for my own – to make myself pop because I don't know. I like this kind of stuff. Our favorite theme song that he's ever had. So I'll start it off with my number 3 moment was kind of a weird one. It was when he had the Big Boss Man. I believe it was here in Pittsburgh. He was doing the whole Ministry of Darkness thing, and he had the Boss Man tied up on his Undertaker logo and hoisted him up above the ramp. and the camera faded out with him just standing there with his tongue out of his mouth, kind of like Gene Simmons from Kiss. That's one of the first things I always think of with Undertaker. That's one of my all-time favorite moments. Adam, why don't you give us your number 3 if you have one?
I bet if you actually had the chance to talk to the Undertaker, you probably wouldn't be happy. But quite a couple of mine are WrestleMania centered. Honestly, one of mine was Punk versus Taker, because I'm a huge CM Punk fan. Everybody knows that. I thought that match may have been. You know what? I won't even say may have been. I think it's the best WrestleMania match Taker's had in probably 8-9 years. I really thought those two just had a fantastic match. I thought that was the match of the night at WrestleMania, and it's with one of my favorite guys, so I'm going to go with that. And I really like the lead into that feud as well.
Yeah, that's fair because you're gonna get gold out of Punk when he decides to give you gold. He's another one of those guys. He's kind of like Orton. If he's not feeling it, he's not feeling it. But typically you're getting gold out of him. So I really like that one. Ben, I know you're sour right now because you've already mentioned it. But why don't you give us your number 3 moment of the Undertaker?
Number 3 moment. It's this one is a weird one, just because I thought it was so cool. Because young Ben has never seen this before. Taker versus Taker. I thought that was creative.
Oh yeah.
Because as a young fan, I honestly was like, how did they pull that off? That is incredible. Like, I don't get this. Like, my mind was seriously warped when I saw that, because I was just like, and it's something that I still remember because I didn't have the mental capabilities to understand that, yes, it was 2 different guys. But even then, like, I was like, holy, like, it was just so cool and so different that no one's ever done it before. Like, it was great because of all of the paranormal stuff that goes with The Undertaker. Like, he was the only guy who could face himself. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, I thought that was legitimately awesome. Like, just because it was so different. And they pulled it off pretty well. Not going to lie. They did.
Yeah, they did. You're right. That was Brian Lee or something, wasn't he? Was in they ended up bringing him back in some kind of biker gang later on, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
Primetime Brian Lee. My number 2 moment, I think, is going to make both of you very happy. It's Undertaker and Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt was getting ready to do the spider walk thing, and he's arched over backwards. He's walking backwards, and Undertaker just sits up. And Wyatt just freezes like, oh shit, what did I just get myself into? I have not liked Undertaker's work in a long, long time. We all know that, but I just thought that was such a cool moment because they were building up Bray Wyatt to be this big supernatural, passing the torch kind of thing, which still has not happened. Damn it. I just thought that was a cool moment because just the look on Wyatt's face when he was upside down and Taker just sits up and looks at him was just I just thought that was like a seminal moment for both those guys because it should have been a passing of the torch and ended up not being one, but I just thought it was such a cool moment. Adam, what was your number 2?
Well, real quick before I do number 2, just as an honorable mention, and it was only like a 5-second thing, when Taker faced Lesnar and Taker sits up, and because Lesnar's laughing at him, and Taker sits up and he laughs right back. That is just one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in a wrestling ring. I die every time I see it.
And it's
funny. I use that GIF constantly, and I don't care. I will always continue to use it.
If you guys go through from look at me and Adam's Twitter banter from Saturday, I believe it was. Maybe
that was just last night.
Sunday. Was it last night?
If
you go through and look at that, you'll see exactly what he's talking about. Because when you sent it to me, I was like, I don't even know how to top that. I couldn't. It was so good. But what was your number 2, Adam?
My actual number 2 is the back-to-back years that Taker and Shawn Michaels fought at WrestleMania. And again, pretty much same logic as Punk. I mean, those are some of the best WrestleMania Undertaker matches in his career. Shawn Michaels is my all-time favorite wrestler. Just the arc over a 2-year span of an actual story being told, I thought was phenomenal. And I don't know if you can really top those matches on that stage.
I agree. I agree. Both those were outstanding. Ben, what was your number 2?
My number 2 favorite moment with The Undertaker is the creativity of matches he was in. This is why I get angry with where he is now at the end of his career. Like the Buried Alive matches were just always fun because they were different. You know, the Inferno match, like holy hell, so different, and him jumping over the ropes and like over the fire, that's always cool. The Boiler Room Brawls, Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is a reason why it's around, because Undertaker kind of made it a thing. Like the different type of matches and the evolution of matches that we get from it. And that's where I think his legacy truly lies, is the creativity of any match that you could put him in, because it's different and it still works, and he would make it work. And yes, if you read, you know, Mick Foley's book, Have a Nice Day, like they take you behind the curtain and, you know, these two guys like, you know, fight like overnight in a boiler room, and then, you know, that gets played to the audience, and then someone spills out the door and then they finish the match. Like that stuff was just so cool. And like those moments were just so epic. Like also one moment that gets an honorable mention from me, just because it takes a whole hell of a lot of toughness and professionalism on the Undertaker's part, when Stone Cold breaks a shovel over his face and he just does nothing in retaliation. Wow. And that shovel was not pre-sawed or pre-broken. The spade of the head of the shovel literally flies off at impact because Austin swung it like a baseball bat and Taker just took it. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen, because that was a legit shoot. That was just holy hell. And Taker was a tough guy. Right after like that happened, he still does his sit-up, and you're just like, holy crap. Like, you are truly indestructible. Congratulations. So that's my number 2, is the level of creativity in matches and promos that he could do, because they're awesome. Yep. And his entrance, even though, yes, we joke it takes like 45 minutes, his entrance is still sweet. When you hear the thunder roll in, you know, him controlling the lights with his mind, all of that stuff is still badass. It is. Because when you don't anticipate it coming, and then you hear the bell toll, no matter who you are, where you are, you get chills. You do. Because you buy back into that kid that you used to be watching The Undertaker, and you hear that and you go, oh my God, The Undertaker's back. This is amazing. Like, we've all been there. Right. Even recently. Like, if you don't think he's coming back and all of a sudden he's back out of nowhere. It's still cool. So that's what my number 2 is.
That's fair. That's awesome. My number 1, you guys are probably going to be like, oh, Christ, really? My number 1 is when he came back as the American Badass. He came out with, you know, the Kid Rock song and the motorcycle, and he just laid waste to like 7 dudes in the ring. I don't remember who it was. I just remember that long black trench coat just flying behind him as he's kicking people in the face and choke slamming and just going absolutely berserk. I loved it because it was finally like him just being him. He got away from the character. He was just going out there and pretty much just being himself. And I always like that. I always think it's cool when guys are more themselves than a character. So that's my number 1 moment. When he came out with the vignette with the little girl standing there dancing around in the creepy dresses, and he's here, and then the bell rings, and then for whatever reason, I don't know why, they just decided American Badass Kid Rock would be the perfect song for it, and it was. It was great. I love that. That's my favorite moment in his career. I just thought it was great. Adam, what was your number 1?
My number 1, is a bit more personal, just because, like, it was when me and my dad got to go to Atlanta for Survivor Series, and it's just because, like, you knew the career was winding down, and I'm pretty sure I'd have to go back and count, but I think it was him and Kane versus the Wyatts, and I'm pretty sure it was one of his last 5 matches. I know we take crap on Taker, and the past couple years it's probably been pretty valid, but I'm not sure the wrestling world will ever see as a uniquely successful career as The Undertaker has had. And there's a lot of different factors that make me say that, but just his devotion to the keeping of a character through a lot of the early years, the WrestleMania thing, which, started out pretty much as a complete and total accident, all this other stuff that this guy pulled off for how long, and the skill set he had, everything else, even though, like, it didn't make a lot of business sense for them to go over the Wyatts. The Wyatts were a hot act at that point. They should have won that match. At that point, I didn't care because I knew I was seeing one of the last times. It was the last time I'd get to see The Undertaker personally. And you knew it was coming to an end. And I don't know, it's one of the cooler things they've been able to do as a wrestling fan in my mind.
Yeah, and that's a cool way to word that, because it was such a personal thing for you, and that's awesome. Ben, what was your number one moment?
Honorable number one, obviously Hell in a Cell with him and Mankind, because that is beyond iconic. That will transcend generations. That entire match, even though Mick Foley asks to be tossed off the top of a 20-foot cell, asks to get chokeslammed through the cell, the fact that you had a clear ending to that match, and then Foley gets off the stretcher and comes back for more and meets Taker up at the top, that's an honorable mention number one.
And that happened right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
But honestly, again, just the character itself. No one ever did a tombstone pile driver before he did. No one walked on the top rope at his size like he did.
Nobody does this his size.
But like the whole like gaining power from an urn, which was a nice spin-off of Hulk Hogan like hulking up, like out of nowhere. All Paul Bearer had to do was raise the urn, and all of a sudden the Undertaker sat up and drew power from it and finished the match. All of that and the character is incredible. Yes, there was dark turns in there where he becomes a Ministry of Darkness, which, yes, it's weird as hell, but it still was an organic move in that direction. I didn't like the American Badass angle because I thought it was just unneeded and unnecessary. But just the whole uniqueness, and him and Paul Bearer was just, they were such a great wrestler and manager just connection. That connection was so amazing. So amazing. Because anytime you hear Paul Bearer say, "Oh, yes," you think of The Undertaker. Like you do. They're symbiotic, and it's amazing. And that's what I remember the most. It's just back when I was a kid, those two coming out to the funeral march, and it's just as bone-chilling then as it is now. That's why I get angry and I crap on The Undertaker, because he's bastardized all of it. He really has, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you're not going to get any arguments out of me and Adam. You're just not. We agree with you. Adam doesn't feel quite as strongly about it as I do. But, you're just not going to get any arguments out of us. And real quickly before we leave this topic, you guys give me your favorite Undertaker theme song. Like, I want to say American Badass because Adam or Ben, you live in the Detroit area, so you'll probably get a snicker out of this. I love Kid Rock. I think he's a very talented dude. I've seen him in concert. I know what that guy can do. But that's not my favorite theme song he ever had. For those of you who had the CDs, and I was such a wrestling fan, I had all the CDs back in the day. The one where he had on, I believe it was Volume 3, when they had the electric guitars and all that.
Yeah, the Ministry of Darkness. Yeah.
Yes. That was my all-time favorite Undertaker thing because it was so badass. Because up until then, he had just been using the funeral march, and this was such a spin on it with the electric guitars, and I believe it even had double bass drum in there. I'm pretty sure at one point. That was my favorite song. I loved it. To this day, it's still my favorite Undertaker theme song. Adam, what would be yours?
Mine is just the original. It's the funeral march. I don't think there's any other song that will be as closely twined in with a certain wrestler. I can't get over that being his song. Even though he didn't have it for quite a while, that's it for me.
Right. That's fair. Ben?
I like the funeral march, but I like when they tied in the thunderstorm elements into it, because I thought that was cool. I love thunderstorms. Anytime there's a storm out, I will watch it roll in. I'll sit on my porch watching it, I just have a natural affiliation with Thunderstorms. I love them. And when they started doing that with the funeral march for Taker, granted, yes, that was at near the end, I thought that was the best rendition of his entrance because it's cool. It's just, to me, it's just awesome. It's a perfect blend of old and new, and it's something I truly do appreciate. So that's my favorite alliteration of his theme song.
Yeah, and like you said, like the thunderstorm thing, like it's cool because toward the end they're incorporating the fog and the lightning and stuff like that. So that made it really cool. Again, it's all subjective. I love both of your guys' choices. I thought they were great. But I mentioned there was another segue just off of the Reigns and Undertaker match. And the other one was, Ben, we kind of touched on it last time we talked. We talked about JR a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And for this match, Undertaker's supposed last match, which I think it is, because even his wife went on Instagram, was even saying, such a cool moment. I'm proud of him, blah, blah, blah. JR's back in WWE. He did commentary during that match. Ben, you sent me the article that he had re-signed for 2 years, but what I thought was kind of weird about it was he has said he's not coming back for commentary. Like he'll do the occasional match. If they need him to work more, now that his wife passed away, if they need him to work more, he will. But he said on his own podcast, like he's not taking over SmackDown, and he did confirm Mauro Ranallo is gone. He did confirm that because they're good friends, and he said, I'm not going to speak for him. I know he's going to still be doing things. He said, but he is done with WWE. That's for sure. That's over. He's not coming back. He's not taking Tom Phillips' job, and he's not coming to Raw to take Michael Cole's job. So I'm kind of wondering if he's just going to be the occasional big marquee match kind of guy, if it's just going to be certain events. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But Adam, while you were gone, we talked about Mauro Ranallo's absence because of his battle with bipolar disorder. And we talked about JR's wife dying. Like it got pretty dark at times while you were gone, buddy. And we were both kind of hinting that maybe JR could come back or what it was, and we found out that he is. What are your thoughts on this? Like, how often do you think they're going to use him? Because we know WWE will use the hell out of somebody, but
I was pretty surprised.
A lot of guys are doing like the part. Go ahead.
I was surprised to even see him back because I had one thing that I had missed that I hadn't heard of. Like there was even rumors. So when he came out at WrestleMania, I was pretty excited, to be honest. Yeah.
He still got it, and he's still so good at what he does. But what I was saying is we all know a lot of guys have quote unquote part-time contracts, so I'm kind of wondering how often they're going to use JR. Ben, we've talked about what JR means to us before. So what were your thoughts on his return?
I liked it, even though he didn't. He tried to let Michael Cole and all them just do their job. You could tell he was kind of just laying out and it was just there to be there. But if he's the guy that fills in those marquee moments as we try to transition away from Michael Cole, I'm okay with it. Like, I am truly happy because that's why I love watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. I like hearing JR. And it's completely because, yes, when I was growing up, outside of watching, Saturday Morning Superstars, hearing him and him being the voice behind the Attitude Era and all those big moments where you hear, my God, he's broken in half. Or, just all of those things. Like, I'm going to get nostalgic, and I love the fact that he's back. I do. I don't care if it's to train another, up-and-coming announcer. If that's the case, awesome, because that guy's going to have the sign-off of one of what I think one of the best across all sports, not just wrestling, one of the best announcers in our generation. And if he can sign off on a guy, great. It's just I like the fact that he's back. I like and this goes back to why I really do appreciate Triple H as a businessman, because he's there mending broken bridges that have been there between Vince McMahon and whoever. And he's been that mediary, and you're seeing all these awesome things as a result of it. And I'm just glad that JR can be back in a WWE building. It's nostalgic as hell, and some people are going to say that's cheesy and stupid. That's fine. I like the fact JR can come back in any capacity and still have his fingerprints over a WWE product. I'm happy with it. And in any capacity, I am thrilled. Like, I'm just as thrilled Kurt Angle, as you called it, Marty, is the Raw general manager. I am beyond thrilled with that. So I'm totally happy right now. It's not
Here's
even
another
funny.
one. Kurt Angle was recently on Talk as Jericho, and he said that he kind of hinted that he will be wrestling again. But right now, Triple H, they want to see commitment from him that he's not going to relapse, even though he's been clean and sober for 4 years. They want to make sure that he's not going to relapse. So they're kind of having him be an on-air personality right now. But he did kind of hint, because he said when they started talking, he's like, "Well, I'm going to wrestle, right?" And they're like, "Well, we'll see how things go in due time." So I think he's going to end up wrestling again, which makes sense. I just hope it's nothing crazy, because he broke his neck 3 times in WWE. So that's kind of crazy. What did I want to go with here? Oh yeah, guys, another dead horse that we beat into the ground is how much of a women's wrestling fan I am. We all know this. They have officially announced a women's tournament, just like the Cruiserweight Classic, just like the UK tournament. I believe it's 32 women. I think it's 32, that's a big freaking pool to swim in for women's wrestling. 32 women. I think it's taking place this summer. They haven't announced any of the combatants or any of the competitors or anything like that. I kind of have ideas on some of the people that I think they're going to bring in. I don't want to throw them out there because I don't want to be a rumor monger, but I'm excited for it because, it's giving women a great platform to show that sometimes they're better than the guys. This is one I will make every effort to tune into because I'm interested, and now that I have the network, I can kind of watch this stuff. Ben, what are your thoughts on this women's tournament? Do you think it's going to be the worst of the 3? Do you think it's going to be good? What are your thoughts on this? Your initial reaction?
My reaction is the exact same reaction I had with the Cruiserweight. I'm hoping for the best and preparing for the worst, because I went in blind with the Cruiserweight tournament, and obviously if you go back on previous episodes, I was blown away by that. And the UK tournament, I had higher standards, and I think I was disappointed with those standards.
Yes.
So that's where I'm going to go in with this. It's very intriguing. And if they truly let these women wrestle and be themselves, I think you're going to see very good matches. Granted, yes, it's going to be a little different, but get over yourself and get over the sexism that you have and sexual bias that you have, and just appreciate what they're going to do in a ring, because you see it with Sasha, you see it with Bayley, you see it with Asuka, you see it with all of these female wrestlers that are doing tremendous work. And that's why I have such high hopes that this thing is going to be like the Cruiserweight Classic, where you can go in blind and then just be like, wow, I cannot wait to see the ending of this, because it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think they'll, and Adam, I'll get to you in a second. I think they're going to have some of their recent signees for NXT. Like, I think they're going to have to put some of them in. Ladies like Ruby Riott, Ember Moon, they're going to have to give them. No, they're not getting a platform in NXT, but they're going to have to give them more of a platform in this tournament. I don't think they're going to sign 32 indie female wrestlers. I just don't. I do think you'll see some familiar faces. Maybe they'll bring in Molly Holly, who's a trainer now with Daivari. I think maybe you'll see some throwback faces just for namesake, kind of like Tajiri was and Brian Kendrick. I think you'll see that. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. Adam, what were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I'm trying to keep my expectations in check. I'm kind of like Ben. I'd really like to see the best that WWE can offer. But, this is, again, it seems like a beating a dead horse, but what's the overall plan with this? Is this going to be like the Cruiserweight, where the tournament's fantastic and they they have a spot on the show afterwards, but it's really not pushed very well? Or is it going to be like the UK tournament, which I still haven't gotten around to watching, and like nobody ever hears from anybody ever again? Like, they had this tournament, made a big deal about it. I've yet to see anybody who's participated in that tournament on WWE television. So if you're not going to do something with it, what's it going to matter? You know what I mean? So I'm a little bit torn on this. I'm excited for it. I really, really want it to be done well. I'm hoping for the Cruiserweight version, but we'll see what happens.
You were talking about the UK tournament. I think Pete Dunne has been on NXT once, and I think Tyler Bate has been on once.
Well, then you had Jack Gallagher. I mean, the gentleman Jack Gallagher, he was, from the tournament.
Was he in the UK? I thought he was in the Cruiserweight. Or did he do
He
both?
was in the Cruiserweight. Yeah, he was in
the
Cruiserweight.
Right, but he started in the UK tournament, didn't he?
No.
No?
Well, the UK tournament was after the Cruiserweight.
No, he was in the Cruiserweight tournament. No, you guys are right. Never mind.
Yep.
I'm the idiot. I apologize. Continue.
It's all right. You're not an
You just assumed since he was English, he had to be in the UK.
Well, yeah, probably, but
that's profiling.
I was gonna say, that's me not getting over myself in profiling. That's terrible.
But kind of branching off the UK tournament, one of my all-time favorite. Well, I shouldn't say all-time favorites because that's a bit much. But one of my recent favorite guys in the past 10 years is back in WWE. Drew McIntyre, back in WWE under the NXT banner. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I marked out because I kind of feel like they gave up on him too quickly. I mean, my God, they put him in 3MB. Jesus Christ. Which was horrible. That was awful. I enjoyed it because it was funny, but like at the same time, kind of like, wow, Slater's decent enough. McIntyre's good. Mahal is decent enough. Like, they're kind of better than this 3MB gimmick. And they kind of just, it left a bad taste in my mouth. But I'm glad to see he's back on NXT, where I think he can flourish. I think if he's kind of working with guys like Bobby Roode, all those guys that are down there. There's so much talent down in NXT. I think if they leave him down there for a little while, I think he could flourish. Ben, what were your thoughts on McIntyre re-signing? Because I'm kind of surprised it happened, but in a way I'm not, because the ultimate goal is to get over in WWE. But what's your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on it are this: NXT at this point is what TNA was before the fall. And we talked about this before, Marty, when Adam was gone. It's almost becoming to the point where NXT has talent equal to the main roster, and it should just be it should just be like a main roster show. Like, because you have all these great guys, coming in and, eventually moving up and moving on. But when you have that signing, when you have Bobby Roode, when you had Austin Aries, you're having these great wrestlers, these great talents that still aren't, quote unquote, up to WWE caliber. So they try to, groom them to be that. And they had, James Storm in for like 2 matches. But that's what I see like NXT as is now. Like, I don't see NXT as developmental anymore. Like, they still try to pawn it off as that. But it's a happy accident with what Triple H has done down there, because he's pulling in all these guys that are like, hey, I know we never really gave you a look before, but now, not only are we going to give you a look, it's a mutual thing. You can see if you can finally get your shot with the WWE, and you can help still keep this brand at this insane height that it's in now.
Yeah, guys, Rude and Eric Young and so on.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, and it's just, but that's like the thing, like, it's so good that I don't consider NXT developmental anymore. It's just, to me, it's a main roster show. It's must-see TV every Wednesday, and yeah, like, I always, if I forget to tune in, I definitely make sure, and it's sad, I always make sure I watch Raw. I always kind of go half and half with SmackDown, but I always tune into NXT. Like, those 2 shows are the ones that get the most attention from me. And It's because they always put on good product. And it's because they also have really good rosters, too.
Yeah, they do. Adam, before I get your thoughts on McIntyre, Ben, you kind of your field is journalism and commentary. You do announcing for sporting events. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Maybe it's just me being a mark, and if it is, I apologize. The recent roster shakeup. They moved, and this, guys, I'm sorry. They moved Byron Saxton to SmackDown, which was, in my opinion, the dumbest shakeup they could have made. Because listening to him and Corey Graves was just like listening to Heenan and Monsoon, Ventura and McMahon. Like, they were like that really good pairing, that really dynamic pairing that played well off each other. I don't think he's going to get that with Tom Phillips, and I don't think David Otunga is going to be able to be that guy either. Because Otunga's a smart guy. He was mediocre in the ring. He's on the mic, whatever. The move from Saxton going to SmackDown just completely pisses me off. Ben, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, Saxton and Corey Graves obviously had great chemistry. Like, they were perfect, right? What I would have loved to see is Corey Graves move and get him back with Todd Phillips, because those guys had excellent chemistry in NXT, and they both took each other to new levels. And NXT had really great commentary because of those guys. So I don't understand why you would break up a good thing that they, Byron and Corey even had with us Raw, but because they had a good professional banter back and forth always. It was like, yes, they would still do the typical like corny things that you ask wrestling announcers / color guys do, but they never stepped on each other's toes. They were always playful. It was never really truly adversarial. It was great. I don't get why they moved them, because honestly, I would have moved them as a group, to SmackDown, and then traded JBL and Otunga to Raw, and then at that point you can let Michael Cole either coach those guys up while they're there, or finally allow Michael Cole to step back, and then you can have a replacement for Michael Cole work with those guys.
Right. That's fair. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
You're good.
It was just something that bothered me. Adam, what are your thoughts on Drew McIntyre re-signing and going to NXT?
I mean, I'm definitely interested. Like you said, I'm a little bit surprised he went back to WWE. And I know, okay, like, NXT isn't officially WWE, but it is. And, I mean, he didn't have the best experience on the main roster. Is it something that's going to change? Is it something that's, already been discussed behind the scenes? It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I agree. It was just, when he got released, he was even totally blindsided by it, because, like, the first thing he did, it's funny, he got released, and then, like, I think within a week he was on Talk as Jericho, which is kind of funny, because he was totally blindsided by it. Like, he just didn't see it coming. He said he should have, but he just was surprised it happened, because they were trying to build him up so much, and then all of a sudden he got put on the back burner. But I'm curious to see what he's going to do. Is he going to feud with Rude? Is he going to feud with Eric Young? I mean, I'm just curious to see what they're going to do with him. And listeners, I want to apologize. It's been, 2 weeks since our last episode. That's partially my fault, because I've been working on this for a while. This is something I've been wanting to talk about. This one took a little bit of research, guys, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I think we can have a great discussion. We know WWE Women's Division has been up and down over the past, we'll say 20 years, give or take. So what I did is I went through and I did the research starting from like 96 up until the present day. And I want to go through, and obviously some of these women will overlap each era. But I want to get you guys your opinion on which era, which generation, however you want to term it, was the best women's division. And there's no parameters. If you enjoyed the bra and panties era, that's fine. If you enjoy today's era the best, whatever you like. But we'll start in 96, 97, when women became more prominent on TV again, on WWE TV. Jacqueline, Ivory, Tori, Luna, Sable, China, Deborah, and Terry. They were like the first initial group after like Medusa or not Medusa, I'm sorry, Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano, because like women kind of went off the radar for a while there in WWF. From there over, they went to the Attitude Era women, which was Lita, Trish, Molly Holly, Stephanie McMahon debuted then, Jerry Lawler's ex-wife, the Cat, and Victoria, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler, and Jazz. Which Jazz, I forgot about Jazz because she wasn't there for long. Like she had like a cup of coffee. She was a mainstay in ECW. I actually forgot about her. After that was what they called the Ruthless Aggression Era, and this is all coming from Wikipedia. The names of the eras. So bear with me. They might be horribly named, but whatever. The Ruthless Aggression Era. Gail Kim, Christy Hemme, Nydia, Dawn Marie. This was like the bra and panties era. That's what I really think it should have been named. Gail Kim, Christy Hemme, Nydia, Dawn Marie, Jackie Gaeta, Melina, Michelle McCool, Ashley Massaro, who I have no clue who that is, Candice Michelle, Alicia Fox, and then the talent started coming in with Mickie James, Beth Phoenix, Layla, some chick named Crystal, I don't know who she was, and Jillian Hall. Ben, Jillian Hall, wasn't she the girl, the woman wrestler who was kind of making fun of Brooke Hogan with the fake singing career? Do I have that one right?
I think so.
Because she would come out and she would kind of like have the headpiece on, as kind of making, if I remember correctly.
I think so, yeah.
And then they had Wikipedia called it the Divas Championship era, which was Joy Giovanni, Maurice, Karma, also known as Awesome Kong, Eve Torres, some chick named Caitlin. Naomi debuted with the other chick from the Funkadelics, whose name escapes me. Kelly, the Bella Twins, and one of Adam's favorites, AJ Lee. Again, some of these women stretched over into other divisions or into other eras. The Total Divas division or era brought in Paige and Emma, which I was kind of surprised because the Total Divas, that's all they really brought in. But then it was kind of like you forgot about the all red everything chick, whatever her name was, Eva Marie. Yeah, her. And then you had the Divas Revolution, which I think this is going to be the clear winner. Charlotte, Sasha, Becky Lynch, and Tamina. And then the current day roster, the women that are up there, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Nia Jax, and Bayley. I was going to lump them two together. I don't know why I didn't. But I'm just kind of curious, and if you need me to go through them again, I can. What was your guys' favorite women's era? Because for me personally, it's from Paige and Emma up till now. So from like Total Divas up till now. Because WWE's always kind of had a laughing stock in the women's division, other than the blip with like Ivory, Victoria, Trish, and Lita. So I'm curious to see which era you guys think is best. Adam, I'll go with you. What are your thoughts? What was your favorite women's era in WWE?
I mean, you could chalk up the recency bias, but it's got to be what they have going on right now. And yeah, they missed the boat on some things. They still short the women a little bit more than I would particularly care for. However, at the same time, you don't see very often women headline Raw. You don't see them have 30-minute Iron Man matches. You don't see them have Hell in a Cell matches. It's not like they just threw them out there just so they could say they did it. These matches were the best match of the night, or the main event and all that. I don't understand. I'm joking, but if you don't think that this is clearly the best era and the best, like the most attention they've ever gotten, and the most the WWE machine has been behind them, you're wrong, and you should feel bad for being wrong.
Right. I will kind of contradict you on one thing. I don't think it's the most attention they've got, because they were getting more attention when they were doing the bra and panties things, because you would have like three of those matches a night. It was ridiculous. I mean,
I'll give you that, but to me that's not really what women's wrestling should be known for. And I'm you're not saying that, but
right.
To me, that's not attention. Like that's just
right.
Hey, let's hope we pop a rating. Just hoping something happens.
Or pop something else.
Right. Well,
Showing.
everybody knew where I was going on that one. But I mean, that's not the attention you want to get, or
Right.
they shouldn't want to get at any rate.
And Ben, which era was your favorite? I'm curious to see if you're going to go the same way as me and Adam, or if you're going to be something different.
Well, eye candy wise, they're all good, obviously.
Right.
But
Right.
that's not what we judge anything on, either on this network or on this show. The best work that's coming out of is this generation. I mean, you have women wrestling main eventing pay-per-views, whether it's TakeOver, whether it's Raw, it's these things, and when you're watching these matches, Bayley and Sasha's match at TakeOver Brooklyn is still in the running for match of the year. It in my opinion, because it's that damn good, and it you just think about it and you're like, well, yeah, okay, but then you go back and watch it, you're like, oh yeah, like this is really, really good. The Iron Man matches, in takeovers have been great. It's just what you're getting now. You're getting finally the perfect blend of really attractive women who can wrestle, like actual wrestle, and it's great. It's like I said, like beating a dead horse. You're just getting all these great matches. You're getting great storylines. They're all good on the mic. They're all good in the ring. You're getting a good, complete entertainment package on all fronts in this current generation of female superstars. And yeah, I agree with Adam. If you don't think this is the best one by far, outside of back in like the 80s and before, then yeah, you're just flat out wrong, and your opinion is not valid.
I would say the closest it came was the Attitude Era, when you had Lita, Trish, Molly Holly, Victoria. When you had women in, granted, yes, you still had your bra and panties with Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler, but that wasn't like the main, like Lita and Victoria and all them. They kind of overshadowed the TNA aspect of what Tori Wilson and Stacey Keibler were
Well, I
bringing.
mean, hell, Lita and Edge had a sex act on Raw. I mean,
Right. And
so
yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever heard that story? Have you ever heard those two tell that story of how awkward that was? Like, they were forced into doing that.
That's
they
a
were-
non-starter. I'd be like, fine, find a new superstar. I'm done. There
Yeah, they
would
were
be no
both
way
like-
in hell.
Yeah,
I'm
they were both
not
like,
miming a
having
sex act in front of 15,000 people.
Yep. Yeah,
Not
it
even
was-
if
it
you
was
paid me
bizarre.
$2 million a year, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, there
Uh-uh.
has to be a standard set somewhere.
There has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's embarrassing for both people. It really is.
Yep.
Even though everyone thought, that'd be fun to be Edge in that situation. Yeah, sure, but for both of them, it's awful. It is
Yeah.
flat out awful and disrespectful and unprofessional.
Yeah, especially when you think, wrestling's always been geared towards teenagers and young kids. How many young kids were in the audience that night that saw that?
Well, any young kid that ran in on their parents have seen it in some way, shape, or form. So
That's true, but not many parents look like Edge and Lita.
that is true too, and that is very fair. Good counter.
But yeah, I mean, it was just like I said. I mean, it seems absurd because it was like a 2-minute conversation, but it took me a couple days to gather all these names and kind of put this together. And it was something that I felt we could dive into with the recent announcement of the women's tournament and things like that. So I really liked where you guys were at, because it kind of shows that not all the dudes are just all about TNA and hey, we want to see bra and panties, and it shows that wrestling has evolved. Wrestling fans want to see actual matches, not just pillow fights and all the other crap they were doing. I don't have anything else for this week. I'm glad Adam's back. I'm glad he's back in the saddle. Welcome back, brother.
Good to be back, boys.
You guys have anything you want to add?
Honestly, even though we've crapped on the Undertaker, I'm going to be sad that he's gone. Like, even though, yes, if you're still listening to this podcast after I crapped on him 30 minutes ago, I will honestly say it sucks that he's gone. Like, it's awful that it came to this, obviously, but he's a once-in-a-generational person like Hulk Hogan or anything like that. I mean, he's a truly multi-generational, transcendent character, and it sucks that he's officially gone. It is. It's awful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the way it went down. It was like we said before, it was kind of overdue. But I see where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with you. I just wish it would have happened sooner.
Oh yeah, I think we all would have liked it to happen sooner and in better circumstances. But I mean, let's not also just sit here and think of a guy that honestly is on the same pedestal. Like I said, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, all these guys that are truly like icons. Shawn Michaels, more recently, he even transcends Shawn Michaels. I mean, he's bigger than Shawn Michaels. If for anyone that's younger listening to this podcast, if you think Shawn Michaels is a big deal, Undertaker honestly is head and shoulders above Shawn Michaels. And that's really hard to say because Shawn Michaels is a damn good worker.
Yep. And it was kind of funny because you hear about all the backstage stories how, when Shawn Michaels was kind of running his mouth and running the show a little bit, there was always one guy he wasn't able to bully. He was the conscience of the locker room. You hear it all the time. It was Undertaker. Everything had to kind of run by Undertaker. And if Undertaker felt it wasn't cool, he pretty much didn't let it happen. Right. So they're going to be missing. And from what I understand now, you hear people on these podcasts all the time, they say there's really not very many backstage politics like there used to be back in the day. Like, you're not going to see one group kind of running the show. But, you're right. You're right. They're going to be missing them for sure. Absolutely. The last thing I want to discuss, Shinsuke Nakamura on NXT last week said his farewell to the NXT crowd.
1 year ago, I came to NXT. I already had experience. I was already champion in Japan. But I came to change myself to compete the best in the world. 1 year later, I call NXT my home. I learned a lot of things from the NXT superstars, the NXT coaches, and from you. One thing I found very quickly. You. The NXT universe is crazy.
I don't want to say it was emotional because it wasn't, but he was very appreciative of the audience and the opportunity he had in NXT. We all know he's now a main roster guy. Apparently, I think he's going to be on SmackDown now, which is cool because they need that. I'm excited to see it. Adam, what were your thoughts on Shinsuke's time in NXT?
Well, I mean, he was obviously fantastic the whole way around. Everyone knew that coming in. But it's kind of like the AJ Styles thing. It's always nice to see somebody who you fully expect to be awesome hit that kind of a stage and still be exactly what you expected. I'm happy to see him on the main roster. I wanted it months ago. And I honestly, I think Dolph Ziggler's kind of a nice first feud. It's clear who's going to go over. Ziggler's going to make him look like $1 million. And I'm really, really pumped for the bigger things ahead for Shinsuke, and honestly, I think he played an important part in NXT because
he absolutely did.
He came in when a lot of the NXT quote unquote originals who had really built it to where it was were kind of on their way out the door. So if you don't have guys like Shinsuke and Bobby Roode to kind of carry that torch and keep it going, a lot of that work goes for naught. So, he wasn't there for a ton of time, but he's still pretty damn important in NXT.
Yep. Ben, what are your thoughts?
Well, as a guy who really didn't know Shinsuke Nakamura, the send-off's nice because, NXT and him both helped each other out. In obvious ways. As Adam said, NXT was kind of at that weird tipping point, and he was an unknown, and he immediately lifted the mantle right after Sami Zayn and Finn Balor left, and kept that mantle high, and performed awesome matches with Samoa Joe, and even with Sami Zayn, on his last match, before getting up to the main roster. He's been nothing short of incredible. So it was a nice moment, and I'm really excited to see him go against guys like AJ Styles, Dolph Ziggler, raising that bar of guys that are now main roster guys, and see how he compares, because he still is one of the best entrances, in wrestling right now. When that violin hits, I get chills every time, and I get excited to see him come down to the ring and just do his thing. And I have only known this guy for now 6 to 8 months at most, and I'm so attached to his entrance. I love it. I love the matches he puts on. He's a great performer, and we're really fortunate and lucky that a guy who's well known in Japan can transition that nicely over here. It's awesome.
Yep, I agree. I agree with that. Fellas, I don't have anything else. It's a great first episode back for Adam. We're glad you're back. For Adam and Ben, I'm Marty. We'll catch you guys outside the ring.